Hello, Red Earth team. Happy Tuesday. Matt Ham here. Welcome to our weekly conference call where we share some ideas and encouragement for you guys to kind of keep your mind right and your activity in a positive direction as you carry out the work that you all are doing in your various communities. We appreciate you jumping on each and every Tuesday. Of course, this is being recorded for the YouTube channel. I always want to remind everybody that if you're in the car and you're riding around, you can go to the YouTube channel. There's a ton of content there, both teaching content from a sales perspective, some of this mindset content as well, and you've always got access to that, so make sure that you do take advantage of it. Today, I was talking with some of the different folks around the communities, and it seems to be pretty consistent, not only within what you guys are dealing with at Red Earth, but also like everywhere right now. Change is very, very common pretty much all around us. And so I had a personal situation with change, and I was going to tie that into today's concept is kind of how do we begin to navigate change and move into what is ahead and step away from kind of what is behind. And in that concept of change, it's very common. A lot of folks talk about it a lot. They deal with it a lot. Change can be difficult. And honestly, most of us spend a majority of our lives kind of avoiding change, but change is inevitable. And if we want to grow, then we have to be okay with change. And right now, I think the problem is change is being forced in some ways that we might not agree with. And so we're fighting that, resisting that, and that may be preventing us from stepping forward and really taking advantage of a great opportunity that's here. So, I have 5 kids, and they always keep me on my toes. I know many of you have kids as well. And my oldest son, Matthew, is 10. And he acts and thinks and talks a lot more like an adult than he does a kid. And it's been a really difficult season for him. So much change in their lives, with the kids. They're going through some difficulties now too. They're not able to go to school, at least in North Carolina, they're not. There's been some changes there. All of their sports programs throughout the summer were canceled. All of their all-star tournaments, their basketball travel team was canceled. And they've just now started back playing baseball. And I see how much they crave that interaction, with other students and peers and teams and so forth. But we had to make a really difficult decision this week with our family. And we chose to pull our kids out of public school. The public school system, no offense, or not really attacking them in any way, but trying to manage 3 boys under one roof with distance learning and all of them on screens. I joke with somebody, it's like having a crack addict to tell them to stop touching the crack that's all around them. And so anyway, it was not working well. So we decided to go to a homeschool environment. And my son, 10, at least he's honest, he said, "Dad, this is the dumbest decision you've ever made." And he was coming down on Liz and I pretty hard. He goes, "I think this is stupid. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do homeschool. I don't want you to be, I just want things to be the way they were. I just want to go back to school. I just want to X, Y, Z." And I tried to be the best dad I could be in the moment. And again, I'm relating this to you guys now, right? Because if you are honest with yourselves, I'm being honest with myself, I know that I've had the exact same mindset that Matthew has toward the work that I do every day, right? This is stupid. I want to actually go and see people in person. I want to have large gatherings. We were getting together once a month with a great group of business professionals here. A lot of my work was traveling and speaking to both businesses and at conferences, and all of that shut down right now. And, I'm grateful for Zoom calls, but it kind of forced everything into that arena only. And so there's parts of me when I look at parts of what we do professionally and I go, I don't want to do this. I want it to go back, right, to the way things were. But at the same time, it has provided a moment in time and an opportunity to innovate and to take advantage of the environment and to really move forward. And in many areas, because we have been willing to adapt and change as a business, we have seen growth in a number of different areas, namely some of our portable and digital resources. And so that being said, I think that it's important on how we handle change. And so I want to talk about that today from a couple of just mindsets and practical things that you guys can do so you don't stay stuck in this moment. Number one, wherever you are right now, whatever you're going through, whatever the circumstances might be, acknowledge them. I think a great mistake that we make is that, nothing's wrong. And we just want to sweep it under the rug. You have to acknowledge the environment that you're in and the situation that's going on around you, okay? And you've got to say, all right, I acknowledge this. This is frustrating. And maybe it's a situation of like, you know what, your sales aren't where they need to be. You haven't seen enough clients. The income's not where you want it to be. The opportunity, and as we talked about last week, the tension in that moment is to start blaming everybody else and everything else. Blaming everybody else and everything else. And instead of saying, I'm going to make the decision to do the things that I know that I need to do in order to move me in a consistent direction. Right? As we talked about, John's been doing this for 20 plus years, and he has seen the ups and downs, the ins and outs, the lulls and the, fast tracks, and these kind of dynamics of how Red Earth teaches the sales process, how we do on-site sales. It's tested through those seasons. So you have to make a decision that I can blame it and try to manipulate or control or whatever, or I can step into it, right? And that being kind of the key focal point is you have to acknowledge where you are first. If it's a difficult moment, if you're frustrated and you're wanting to fight against kind of the change, just acknowledge, you know what, it's really tough right now. And even depending upon the gravity of that, if it's like the weight and heaviness of losing a loved one, those are big situations, big deals, broken relationships, whatever the case might be. You have to mourn those situations in whatever way that you choose to, but you have to let them kind of process through and digest, and you can't stay there. That's the key, though. You can't stay there, but you do have to recognize them. And so wherever you are right now, recognizing that it might not be where you want to be and that you need to change a few things in order to step into the new environment, acknowledging that is always the first step. And then beyond that, you have to make a decision that I'm not going to stay here. So anytime you approach change, you can fight it, you can resist it, whatever, but acknowledge that it's tough and then make a decision to change and get on with it. So many people live in that constant state of waffling. All right, I'm in, I'm out, I'm in, I'm out, I'm focused, I'm not focused, I'm focused, I'm not focused. That destroys productivity, and it completely wars against excellence. So you cannot have a divided mind and a divided heart about your daily pursuits. You have to make the decision to move forward. Once you make that decision, you've got to go. You can't get sucked back into that environment. And then the third thing I would say is that you have to begin to fight for your joy. This is maybe an overlooked kind of concept, but you have to fight for your joy. It's not about just doing things. It's about doing things with joy. It's about choosing to keep your spirits up. It's about choosing to look at things as opportunity. And this has been kind of my own personal wrestling here as of late. I wanted to wallow in all that wasn't happening and the change that was going on, and I didn't want to participate in it. But I had to acknowledge it first, and then I had to commit my heart to say, okay, I'm moving forward. I'm not going to let anything or circumstance sway me off of this. I'm still going forward. But daily, I have to remind myself to fight for the joy in it, because I'll wake up and there'll be a distraction. There'll be something that wants to get me off track. And, my mentor, Kevin Adams, who's also my business partner, he said, Matt, remember this no matter what. Nothing can keep you from giving. And I thought it was fantastic. He said, nothing can keep you from giving. And if you think about that and how it actually plays itself out, nothing can keep you from giving your absolute best. Nothing can keep you from bringing excellence to the table every day. Nothing. The only thing that can keep you from that is yourself. And at some point in time, we have to look at our environment and say, am I resisting this change, or am I willing to embrace it and move forward, recognizing that I am the only one who can stop me. And from bringing, right, from giving, Now, yes, circumstances can slow things down. I'm not being naive to that reality. But at some point in time, you've got to let go of the excuses and let go of the reasons why you're not giving. Not giving of yourself, not giving your best, not just bringing kind of that excellence to the table every day. I just thought about this as I was talking. I'm going to grab my Bible. There's a really, really powerful story that just came to mind that I want to share from John chapter 5. So I'm going to go to this, and this is really interesting. John chapter 5. So this is kind of early in Jesus' ministry, and he's just started doing some pretty wild things. He's starting to get a pretty good head of steam. People know who he is. There's some really interesting things that are coming around here. But hear this story and think about how it relates to what we're talking about with change, stepping into new things, a mindset of persistence, continuing to give, even when we might not see the results. So this is John chapter 5, verse 1. It says, "After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem." So let me paint this picture for you here. When it was a feast, everybody would come in from the surrounding villages to Jerusalem. So it was a packed house. Really busy, very crowded, a lot of activity, a lot of energy. And everybody's been talking about this guy, Jesus, because he's been having some miraculous things going on. Now there is in Jerusalem, by the sheep gate, that is the side of the city, a pool. So it's a pool of water by the gate to the city. And in Aramaic, it's called Bethsaida. Okay? That's the name of this pool. And the pool had 5 roofed colonnades. Okay? So imagine a big pool by the gate of the city, 5 kind of roofed colonnades. All right? And in these colonnades lay a multitude of invalids, blind, lame, and paralyzed. It's a pretty powerful picture when you close your eyes and go there and just imagine this environment. Big, busy, bustling city, and a bunch of invalids laying next to this pool. One man was there who had been an invalid for 38 years. 38 years of his life, he had been paralyzed. He had been an invalid. It's all he had ever known. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had already been there a long time, okay, so Jesus sees him and he knows he's been there a while, and this is what Jesus said to him. "Do you want to be healed?" I was reading this with a group of friends the other day, and I said, what a dumb question. That's the stupidest question that Jesus could have possibly asked. It's actually disrespectful. Here's a paralyzed man laying with a bunch of other paralyzed people. Jesus knew he had been there for a long time, and he has the audacity to look at him and say, "Do you want to be healed?" But here's the power in that question. That's the exact question that the man needed to be asked. But the reality is, he thought he was answering that question for his whole life, but he really wasn't. So let me turn the tables on you and bring this into our perspective. If someone came in today and looked at you and said, "Do you want to be successful in the real estate business? Do you want to be excellent in every area of your life? Do you want to have more sales?" Right? Whatever the question is, it's kind of a dumb question, because anyone who's in the seats that you're in, of course you want to have success. Of course you want to be excellent, right? That's what we tell ourselves. So why would John or me or Jesus come into a room and say, "Do you want to be successful?" And you're kind of like, yeah, duh, I'm here, right? I want to be successful. Here's the power in this story. This is awesome. And the sick man answered him. The sick man looks back at Jesus and says, "But sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. And while I'm going down, another steps in front of me." What does the man do? The man blames his circumstances. All right, so John walks in today and he says, "Guys, do you want to be successful?" And you go, "Well, John, the call-ins aren't happening, we hadn't had a lot of traffic, or, man, this corona thing, it's just people are still scared." This is the reality. When we're faced with the question that we know we want to answer, too often what we end up with is excuses. So we are failing to change and move in the direction we say we want to go because we're holding on to our excuses. Just like this guy right here. He blames the fact that no one's been able to put him in the pool and that people are cutting him off, right? So what has he done based on what we talked about last week? When you blame people, what does it do? It removes the power that you have over the situation. Listen, if it's John's fault or Corona's fault or your mama's fault or your brother's fault or the client's fault, then you can't do anything to change it because it's their fault. Right? Doesn't mean that people don't make mistakes. Doesn't mean that there aren't real situations to kind of talk about and think through. The reality is, though, is you can't move beyond the things you blame. You'll never be able to change if you're stuck blaming things. This man was never able to be healed because he was blaming everybody else as to why he wasn't healed. But it's interesting because the healing that he was looking for is what he said he wanted. But now he was actually face to face with something that could change that, and he had a decision to make. And so he blames everything, and then Jesus says 3 simple things to him. Get up, take your bed, and walk. Get up, take your bed, and walk. The dude's been invalid for 38 years. Okay? And I understand this is miraculous, supernatural. I believe in that. But I don't believe that it's just some dusty book that we don't have access to, right? I believe that there's principles of truth and life going on here that we can tap into. Because what Jesus says to him is, get up, take your mat, and walk. And at once the man was healed, and he took up his bed and walked. So here's the thing. Get up. What does that mean? Get up, right? You want to lay down in your excuses. So often that's how we live. We want to lay down in our excuses. And Jesus says, get up. Get up. And then he says, take your bed. What's the bed? Well, the bed was the mat that he laid on. He's an invalid, right? So he lays on his mat. What was that? That was comfort for him. See, that's the reality, is we need someone to look at us and say, get up, get off of your comfortable mat, and walk. And too often when it comes to change, we don't approach it the right way because we're better suited for our complaint, and we're better suited for the way it was, and we're actually really more comfortable with being invalid on a mat, blaming everybody else, than actually stepping into and walking into our future. And so I think there's a powerful, powerful, powerful lesson here for those who don't want to adapt to change and embrace the change that is coming. Because it's like, well, I didn't choose this and all that kind of stuff. Well, this guy didn't choose to be invalid. But here's Jesus looking at him and saying, get up, take your mat, and walk. And I think that that is a profound lesson for us as we navigate change and as we navigate the difficulties around us. We got to get up, get out of our excuses, pick up our mat, get rid of our comforts, and then we've got to walk. We've got to go. Now there's a physical manifestation of a spiritual principle here. This man was actually healed. So there was a physical manifestation of healing in this environment. But underneath it, there's a spiritual truth that we have to hold on to. Because again, so many of us are laying on our excuses. We're laying on our comfortable mats. And we're just kind of like, I want to be healed. I want to be successful, And so we lay in this, it's amazing. I just had a picture as I'm telling you guys about this, of this invalid laying with these other invalids at this pool. It's like a personal development conference. A lot of personal development conferences are invalid people who really don't want to get better. They just want to be around other invalids because it makes them feel good. And they're going to listen to the same old 2-point principles, your attitude determines your altitude, and all these kind of like general cliches that they feed us, in that world to keep us indoctrinated to looking for another 4 set of principles. But at the end of the day, Jesus punches through all that, and he's like, do you really want to be healed? Do you want to get better? Okay, get up, take your mat, and walk. And at the end of the day, you can fancy it up with all kinds of personal development language, but that is spiritual truth. And I believe that's the power of God, and I believe it's bigger and better technology than anything we could ever trust in. And so that being said, kind of the phrase that is really been on my heart lately, this is something that I experienced. I woke up in the middle of the night with a phrase on my heart. This is often how I feel like God speaks to me, and I write it down. And the other day, this is what happened at 2 a.m. in the morning. And I felt like this phrase was on my spirit. I'm going to share it with you guys. You can't carry what I didn't give you to where I want to take you. You can't carry what I didn't give you to where I want to take you. The thought process is that you guys have an incredible opportunity ahead of you, but you're trying to carry old habits, old thoughts, old things into that new place, and that's just not how it works. And so the reality is every time you're going to go deeper, going to go better, going to go more excellent, it requires that you let go of something that you don't need. This man was laying on his mat, in his complaints, laying in his comfortable position, and Jesus said, if you want to be healed, you're going to have to get up, you're going to have to take your mat, and you're going to have to walk. And I think that is absolute truth for us today. So no matter where you guys are, what you're navigating through, I hope that you receive the spiritual edification in this, and that you will no longer rest on your excuses. Yes, it's okay to mourn. It's okay to say, you know what, this is tough, but I'm not going to stay there. I'm going to fight for my joy. I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to get off my excuses, and I'm going to go. And that's what you guys need to do. And I promise you, if you do it, and you do it, and you do it, and you do it, and you take joy in doing it, the rewards will speak for themselves, and the results will speak for themselves. So that's it for today's call, for the recording. Thank you guys so much. If anyone needs to talk one-to-one, feel free to reach out, 910-619-4644 or matt@uprint.life. See you guys next week.